Sottle, always a shining light of joy.
Yeah, I know. I'm not quite sure if he was informing us of this week's Hearthstone action or to inform us that a beloved pet has died, but it was somewhere in that region, I think, in the middle.
Okay, well, let's check out the deck list for match number 1. It's che0nsu on the Rogue. As we said, che0nsu not in with a fighting chance to get to top 3, but can mess with everyone else. And this Rogue list is one we've seen fairly often, with a slight increase recently in the more of the sort of Burgle Rogue as opposed to Tempo Rogues and a few other different types.
Yeah, it's fairly standard stuff, as we've kind of been seeing from che0nsu, I think, for the most part. And, you know, despite being firmly at the bottom of the group, the one player completely knocked out of contention, I haven't really found too much fault out of che0nsu's play. I think last week in particular, he was definitely not bottom of the pack in terms of play. Just hasn't quite been going his way.
Honestly, I think early GM, a few weeks of Druid just whiffing and whiffing. Yeah. I think that's what cost him. I mean, if he would have just won 1 or 2 more matches, say if he'd won with the Druid or didn't bring Druid, for example, right, well, he wouldn't be bottom of the pack. He wouldn't be looking to be in this trouble. I think some of his earlier league submissions for decks have not been fantastic, but I definitely think they've improved as time has gone on. So at worst, it's a good learning experience for Season 2. Let's check out FroStee's list, though. I think FroStee has been one of the players who has impressed me the most so far in GM, and without, not going too wild as no other players really have this week, he's bringing the Bomb Warrior, and he's had pretty good success with this deck, so I don't see why not at this point.
Yeah, I think for FroStee, the real duds in his performance, I suppose, has basically been when he... I was going to say misread what his opponents were going to bring. That makes it sound like he made a big fault, but it's so difficult to predict what your opponents are going to bring unless they've shown extreme predictability. And even then, players are switching it up. I'm talking about the week when he brought a Hunter and faced 2 Rogues in a row and got kind of taken apart pretty handily in those 2 games. But with the Bomb Warrior here, it's a little bit less susceptible, I think, to countering. It has pretty much no terrible, unwinnable matchups. And up against the Rogue, I would put it slightly ahead, at least game 1.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And even the Spellbreaker, as we've said, a few times now, the Spellbreaker is so key in not just getting those losses against Cleave, because sometimes Warrior can't get there, and if Van Cleave gets to attack once, it means that you're never really going to get the armor in most lists to be able to shield slam, so your removal's even further reduced. And we've seen so many games of this matchup where Rogue went boom, 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 Van Cleave, hit, dead. And it's kind of lame, but that's just the way the game plays right now. And having the Spellbreaker just in the deck, ready to go game 1, is just there as just an extra little safety net to say, okay, I can at worst take 1 hit and then say, now you've got a 2-2, like whatever.
Kind of forces the Rogue to play a little bit more fair, if you can call Rogue into 6, Spirit of the Shark into 6 lackeys into battle crying them all twice.
Fair for Rogue.
Yeah, exactly. It's more fair than a 3-mana 10-10. But I think it should be an interesting matchup. Rogue versus Warrior, I think, has had a very interesting push and pull in terms of the way it's been played, because it definitely felt to me like it started off with the Warrior playing the control matchup, because Bomb Warrior is relatively similar to Control Warrior. It has a lot of removal cards in the deck. But then I think what players realized as they played it a bit more is, as in the vast majority of Bomb Warrior matchups, you don't really want the removal cards early on. You want your minions. You want proactive plays. Exactly. You want this hand against the Rogue to just get on board early on and stop them from pressuring you out.
Yeah, and this is looking good already. And although a very, very, very general rule versus Rogue is that often you might want to hold a few early game minions sometimes, depending on what the minions are, I don't think you ever hold Town Crier, because they get you to your other minions that then kill things for you. So yeah, I think this is one of the, for me, most consistently even matchups that we've had in this since the expansion, in this meta, I'll call it roughly, because every time I think one class has a strong edge, I watch a few more matches, I'm like, no, maybe not. And that has just consistently happened throughout the expansion so far.
And I've said it last week, that is absolutely my favorite thing about the current meta. Say what you will, obviously, with there being 4, arguably 3 very, very strong classes at the moment, all the matchups feel winnable. Between every single one of those matchups, there is no insta-lose matchup, it makes for such a fantastic metagame.
FroStee now gonna not go for that Town Crier on 2 play we've seen quite often and go for the armor up. Why do you think that is?
Well, the thinking is, of course, he doesn't have a turn 3 play, so he can effectively gain an extra armor by playing the hero power instead of the Town Crier. Even having said that, I don't think I like it. I think I would have preferred...
You like your Town Criers on 2,
I like the Town Criers on 2, and I think, given the construction of the deck for FroStee, which runs 8 cards that he could have drawn and played next turn, being 2 Elix, 2 Goblins, Snip Snap, 1 Acolyte, and 2 Shield Blocks, there were so many cards he could have drawn on turn 3, which had such a huge upside, that I think taking the risk of losing 2 armor was worth it.
Also, funnily enough, you'd be 1 card less in the deck,
Exactly.
which makes it 1 card more likely to be drawn.
Exactly.
Oh, excuse me.
I think overall I would have preferred this slight risk there. Because it's not even like it's a strict downside if you don't play the Town Crier, because you get 1 extra damage, which is not insignificant.
Right.
You have more board presence. Maybe that can trade against what the Rogue is throwing down on the next turn. It's obviously not strictly wrong at all. There were positives and negatives to either play, and FroStee's is a little bit more consistent, a bit more safe, if you will, just guaranteeing him the 2 armor. And I guess with a hand that's this powerful, he doesn't need to be taking those risks. Even having said that, I think it was probably slightly better to play for the out of a 3-drop.
Okay, well, we're back on FroStee's turn, and he has a fairly straightforward answer to this 2/5, which is nice because, although not the scariest minion in the world, having 5 health can be a little bit annoying, but he managed to clear it off pretty well.
It's insane. The Town Crier, the Militia Commander, sorry, every time I see it,
You're impressed.
I'm impressed. I don't know. It's always better than I think it is, and I think it's better every time I see it.
This seems like a weird play, but maybe I'm too strict on myself with this when I play Warrior, but when I play Rogue.
Were you thinking he would have thrown down the Burglar?
Well, I was thinking he wouldn't have just thrown away a Shark.
What's the upside that he gets if he does play Shark there? He gets 4 spells discovered, which is a big upside, to be fair. And the body of Hench Clan Burglar on turn 4 was less likely to be good because che0nsu knew that there was either a Ziliax or a Militia Commander in hand due to the other Town Crier having been played.
That's true.
But maybe Waggle Pick attack face or Waggle Pick clear off the board.
I mean, he could have just equipped the weapon. FroStee doesn't run weapon removal, right?
Don't think so.
No, he has nothing. So I think like maybe I always get too set on saying don't play a Shark into the turn where they can, the one turn where they can always end up killing it.
Well, because the way it played out right was turn 4 you Waggle Pick and kill off the Militia Commander or Swing Face, whatever. Turn 5 Shark plus Ethereal Lackey, then you swing. Either bounce is fantastic there because you either get to discover 2 more spells or you get a 2-mana Shark.
And the thing is, for me, I feel like I always want to leave the Warrior hanging on turn 5. They have no good turn 5 plays, right?
That's true.
Ziliax
is the most proactive thing.
And then that's it, which great that you can then clear off as easily as possible without worrying about Ziliax later on a big mech.
I think I did prefer that because the upside of the Shark potentially sticking, having played it on turn 4, is not even that much higher than the Waggle Pick play, right? You're still discovering 4 spells, which the Waggle Pick half the time would also have done.
Except you have a weapon.
Right, exactly.
Here we go. The shuffle into Boom on curve seems pretty nice. And already, you know, while we were just going deep into the Shark Tank, we were like, che0nsu's made a decent board just having this weapon. Yeah. But the drawback now of the weapon is that he has to almost like trade this away.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, should he have gone separate?
Separate Snip Snaps?
Because then, at worst, he pulls back 1, gets a 0, sorry, not 0, a cheap 1, and then you can start stacking it again the turn after.
I think you're probably right. I mean, putting it to 6 health is kind of nice against a Militia Commander that you expect to be in hand.
Aren't you great if he's playing Militia Commander on 7? Like, sign me up to that one.
Probably. It does not mean that, man, che0nsu's just kind of dying, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. The double boom for FroStee is the absolute dream. And, you know, although for che0nsu, he got a bit unlucky. This, for FroStee, was the dream hand.
It was very close. Yeah.
2 1-drops, both Dr. Booms, a nice mid-game as well. I think he could maybe have tried to optimize his chances by not playing so cleanly into the Dynamatic, because that was the downside of his play, and he met the punish, and he lost.
When you throw away a Shark, 1, you lose tempo, because your minion's done nothing, and FroStee's minion kills something and it's a minion.
Yeah.
It's a 3/4. But also, it reduces your ability to do broken things. And if you're playing Shark in your deck, you want to do broken things.
Yes.
So without that, like, if che0nsu had a cheap Shark in hand now, I would still say he's got a chance because of the value you can potentially get from that card, along with double Vendetta. Means that minions aren't a problem. All you got to do is not die.
I mean, it's not over. We could have seen double trade into the Eternium Rover, trade into the bomb, tank the damage, Drinker, swing with the pick, Life Drinker again to heal for 6. Instead, che0nsu is not going for the healing line, it would seem here, with the Life Drinker at all, which is understandable. It's unlikely that he dies on this turn, so I can see saving that for a turn.
Yeah. Unless this bomb goes not che0nsu's way, which was great there. 4 damage into a 1/1.
Yeah.
That's fantastic for che0nsu. You got bouncing a micro button.
Oh man, this turn was very, very underwhelming for che0nsu, which is definitely in part due to the fact that he got 2 copies of the worst lackey for him in this instance. But does kind of beg the question as to whether he should have gone for an alternate line of play with maybe Hedge Clan Burglar or Life Drinker on that last turn, again, to get the bounce effect, because I would argue that the bouncing of Life Drinker, now that he's already used a Shark, is very important.
Yeah, and also these Vendettas hurt my soul to be in hand right now. Like, che0nsu
That's
could,
true.
honestly, oh wow, che0nsu's just lost. I would have felt better
Yes.
him Vendetta-ing the Eternium Rover. You know, if you played like a Hench Clan.
Yeah.
And just Vendetta the Rover, Vendetta something else, push damage, because something big needed to happen. Good job for FroStee, of course, while we see him on the screen, 1-0. But I feel like after that Shark died, che0nsu had to make something big happen, but I felt like none of his plays after that point even tried to get there. Like, why not just throw Vendettas out to remove the minions, have a 4/3 and a couple of 1/1s, gain a spell that you never know, it might be the best spell you could ever get, and then that pushes the game forward. I don't know, I feel like che0nsu was not the form I've seen from him in that game.
I definitely disagreed with some of his plays, but it's important to bear in mind that I think we're being a little bit results-oriented here. Because, for example, if the Dynamatic Punish had not been there on the Spirit of the Shark turn, it would have been a completely different game.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, he could have played around it, I believe, a little bit better than he did. I think even then, if it had shaken out in a slightly different way, like, you know, he took a risk. He said, if you have Dynamatic, you're probably winning the game. If you don't, I'm in a good spot. I still think there were alternate lines of play he could have taken to not even be vulnerable to that. But having said that, it worked out in pretty much the worst way possible for che0nsu, because any line he could have taken would have been to maximize his chances in a very unlikely game. Anyway.
Yeah, and also like boom with the bombs into boom.
It's a bit too much.
It's unfun if you're the rogue player. But that was just game number 1. We got to step away for just a second, sub game number 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
안녕하세요. 제 이름은 che0nsu입니다. 하스스톤 아이디는 리바이어스라는 아이디를 쓰고 있고 트위치에서는 다소링이라는 아이디로 방송하고 있습니다. 제 하스스톤 닉네임이 리바이어스인데 그거는 예전에 그 워크래프트 3라는 게임에서 이제 다른 친구한테 아이디를 받았어요. 아이디를 받았을 때 받은 아이디의 이름이 리바이어스인데 그거를 이제 쓰다 보니까 뭐 다른 게임 할 때도 쓰게 됐고 하스스톤에서도 쓰게 되었습니다. 그러니까 굳이 꽂는다면은 서렌더 선수? 제가 그 옛날부터 그 서렌더 선수 스트리밍 많이 챙겨보고 이제 서렌더 선수 방송을 보면서 이제 실력을 많이 키웠는데 지금도 많이 팬이고 굉장히 잘한다고 생각하고 있어요. 그래서 이제 그 선수랑 그러니까 디비전이 아니라 좀 더 높은 곳에서 이왕이면은 그 파이널 에서 만나서 이제 제가 이겼으면 좋겠습니다. 뭐 제가 제일 좋아하는 선수라면은 아까도 말했다시피 서렌더 선수. 제가 하스를 처음 시작한 게 그 병원에 입원했을 때 시작을 했는데 이제 그때부터 하스를 하면서 거의 매일 방송을 했어요. 그때는 이제 서렌더님이 방송을 자주 매일매일 켰기 때문에 매일매일 보면서 제가 이제 하스 실력을 늘린 거라서 그래도 서렌더 선수가 제일 좋죠. 팬이니까. 기대한다기보다는 이제 제가 목표로 삼은 게 있는데 작년에 이제 월드 챔피언십을 노렸지만 약간 그러니까 여러 가지 요인 때문에 못했는데 이번에는 좀 열심히 해서 그러니까 상위 라운드에 그러니까 최상위 라운드에 진출해서 네, 좋은 모습 보여드리고 싶습니다.
Available for a limited one-time purchase starting on June 3rd, the new Masters Bundle contains 10 Rastakhan Rumble Packs, 10 Rise of Shadow Packs, a new Stolen Thunder card back, and the Thunder King Shaman Hero. The Masters Bundle is available and giftable now through the Blizzard shop. With the Masters Bundle, you can add to your collection while also celebrating Hearthstone's vibrant esports scene.
We're back with FroStee versus che0nsu. che0nsu just took I would say, a pretty hard loss, not in the fact that he should feel bad about it, but hard as in the game just very much went FroStee's way. He had a great opening hand, he put pressure on very consistently, he removed that shark, and then he dropped booms. So, pretty tough one, but che0nsu is not out of it yet. Let's take a look at the deck he has switched to. He's moved over to his tertiary list, which does remove a Sap, Life Drinker, 2 Waggle Picks, and a Sea Giant, and adds that combo of Coppertail Imposter, Wargate, and Cairn. And last week we were talking about whether Waggle Pick was the removal in this deck. What do you think about this now?
I think it's really, really close. And like I said last week, no matter what players take out of the deck, I feel like I chastise them for it, and it's a little bit hypocritical of me, because if players take out Backstab, I'm like, you know, ooh, you need tempo early on to beat the Warriors and take out those Town Criers. But then if they take out Waggle Pick, I'm like, ooh, you need damage to kill them in the late game. It's, you know, you're not happy to take out any cards. However, the cards that are being put in are undeniably fantastic up against Warrior. The Coppertail Imposter with Mech and Stealth as tags on that card means it doesn't die to Militia Commander and it doesn't die to Dynamatic, very, very importantly, which allows you to go for the already infamous 1-2 punch of Coppertail Imposter on 4, magnetize the War Gear on turn 5, and then just send 9 damage directly to the dome.
Yeah, man, you guys didn't see that, but Dark was doing some great physical movements there of describing exactly where the dome is,
chop, chop,
even
chop.
with his bad arm. But, yeah, I actually think, exactly like that, I actually think turn 4 and 5 are probably the most important turns to not give a warrior a good turn and disrupt, because you could say, like, yeah, you put as much damage as possible as 4, we go into turn 7 to stop them, you know, playing boom comfortably. But my view is, well, a lot of the time by turn 7 they've got tempo because they had good turns 4 and 5 with removal, right? So I think the Coppertail Imposter and this Wargear could be huge, and we see che0nsu agree because he's keeping it right now in his opening hand for game number 2.
I fully agree. I think that for Warrior, the Dynamatic and also Militia Commander as cards are so ridiculously far above the usual power curve, in my opinion, that sticking a board against Warrior through turn 5 is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tall order, and Coppertail Imposter threads that needle perfectly.
Yeah, and even as the Wargear now to make the choices to go wide or tall on that minion, and we're going to see coin into the miscreant. Not too much of a shocking turn, one that's become pretty staple.
Yeah.
Because although you could say, oh, well, you know, you always lose the coin, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what you gain just far, far outweighs the loss of coin in this scenario. Yes, you're not using coin to make a giant Van Cleef, but using coin to be able to open up your options for the foreseeable future, really, for Rogue.
Yes, and I agree the Miscreant was the right play there, but it's not like che0nsu didn't have alternate lines he could have gone for, because the obvious thing he was looking to try and set up was, I guess maybe like coin Coppertail Imposter or coin Wargear wasn't even good. Like using the coin
That's the
here
issue,
is fine
yeah.
to set up the 4-5 punch, and I think just getting the value here, and also just the high health from Miscreant, even though it's 4 down from 5 health, it still makes you significantly, as Raven cracks open a cold one, with the boy.
Non-alcoholic cold one, please.
Yeah. Yes, a non-alcoholic, non-branded cold one.
Exactly. How did you know?
As I was saying, the extra health does just make the board so much more survivable for che0nsu.
And now look at this board. It's just not half bad, is it? It's still susceptible to a Dynamatic next turn, but che0nsu's got a whole extra turn to set something up here, so this is fairly solid. And now, again, you just see the difference, right, in Warrior having Town Crier and early minions versus not, because these would already be cleaned up, and it would just be a Coppertail if FroStee's opening was similar to last game.
FroStee, however, is far from defenseless, I would say here, having a decent hand at just curving out. And, you know, you're obviously afraid of playing a weaker minion than your opponent's stealth minion on a turn like this because you're afraid of being value traded. But I think here, for FroStee, developing a Clockwork Goblin or an Augmented Elec would not be that bad, because if the Coppertail Imposter goes unmagnetized by a Wargear and Ziliax and value trades rather than going face, FroStee, right, exactly, he's very, very happy with that exchange.
Funnily enough, so I've been sat here thinking about whether I would have played the Elec or the Goblin if I was in FroStee's seat right now. And I think after much back and forth, I probably would have gone Elec, because I feel like the extra point of health might have made more of a difference, although I could easily be wrong in that. I think it's a tough choice.
I think it was
but I
very
guess
close.
Overall, there's more chance of you getting more value from having the Elec in hand than it is right now playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it guarantees you an extra bomb shuffle, right? Whereas if he'd gone Elec last turn, double Goblin this turn, he ends up with 2 instead of 3 bombs. Which is an interesting trade-off, because I agree the extra health would have been much more impactful last turn than it will be this turn. However, FroStee does not feel he has the
FroStee
liberty
pray.
here to go for it.
Oh, well, this game could just be over. Another Wargear, let's
Yes.
go.
Yes, this can be very
And
over.
also, this opens up or cashes in on a weakness, and perfect timing for a shield slam draw. The weakness of not many Warriors are playing Execute at the moment.
Oh my god.
Okay.
That's so disgusting.
I'm going to carry on my point, even though it's
Please do.
completely blown out of the water by FroStee's dumb draw of a second shield slam, making me look silly. But because Warriors aren't playing Execute,
Yes.
I was going to say, there isn't really a punish for che0nsu to go that tall, which there shouldn't be.
That
But
was
if-
the one draw.
Yeah, 7 armor drawing into back-to-back shield slam on exactly the right amount of mana. FroStee, if you're going to do that, then fine.
Oh, sorry. Spellbreaker was the other out, but
Sure.
whew. Yes.
But yeah, the lack of executes does change the game
It
a little
does.
bit.
It does big time.
But forget what I just said. It doesn't really matter now because this game's blown wide open.
It is. If FroStee can get some anywhere half-decent draws, I mean, che0nsu's hand is not that good.
FroStee can clear the board this turn.
Yes.
And I think he probably should.
Is there any way he could make... He can't make the commander survive, right?
No.
No, yeah.
I think he does because
Oh, 100%.
it's starting to work out where these awkward threats of the mechs are running out now. 2 Wargears and a Coppertail gone, they're snip-snap. If he clears this off, then the other mechs, with the help of the Dynamatic in hand, become much... the other minions in the Rogue deck become much more manageable. And if FroStee can just, say, manage surviving a few more turns, well, he's got his chance of winning shoot through the roof.
I think if FroStee finds either Dr. Boom here, he's actually in the lead.
Right. Because look, like whatever che0nsu plays, unless he goes for exactly Ziliax pass, FroStee has a good answer to with this Dynamatic this turn, and he can also develop another minion on top of it. I would actually really like to see Dynamatic into Devastator, depending on what the rest of this turn looks
Very
like.
possibly. Very, very.
Just spend your mana, get the big boys on the
Yes.
board, and go.
Ooh, Town Crier. Doesn't actually draw
He's
anything,
drawn
right? Yeah,
Ziliax.
with Ziliax already in hand. Bit of
Only
a
he
dud.
played Fence.
That doesn't have Rush. That
Oh,
gains
it
Rush.
gains Rush. Sorry,
Yeah.
it gains the health and Rush, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I thought it only gained the stats. Shows how often they play Fence. Oof. Wait, that's huge. That's huge. It can be cleared by
Dynamatic clears
Dynamatic.
now. What?
FroStee's like, okay. Oh, wow.
FroStee so far this game has gotten so unlucky and so lucky. I'd say actually losing the 50-50 of the brawl is definitely outweighed by the exact Dynamatic clear and exact draw of shield slam, shield
And look
slam.
at this.
Oh my god. If che0nsu doesn't find a... Ooh, I was
Okay,
going to say
that's a
Leroy,
card.
but
That's
that
a
is
card.
one heck of a card he's found there. Spirit of the Shark is huge.
And the big key here is che0nsu has 30 health.
yes, he has
is-
time.
He has time to put together a win. And I think Shark into... Oh. What is he respecting the Elic? Huh. I think just Shark into Rat into see what happens after that.
He's just cycling. He doesn't think this Shark is good enough quite yet.
Wow.
Okay, that's a good draw. He wants to lower the power of Dr.
Well, he gets the
Blast
heal.
Master Boom.
He gains a heal now.
Oh,
that's
true.
actually perfect. It's probably
that's
the
actually
best
perfect.
time ever to draw the bomb because he can heal.
He's just going to start putting them in his deck.
You know what? I'm going to leave the Elic. Shuffle more in. I can keep healing.
So it's got to be the Omega Assembly, right? Unless he wants to go all 3 minions. If he finds Ziliax here, FroStee was actually just miles in the lead. Gesundheit.
Excuse me, I'm sorry if you heard that. So my question now is, why did he kill the Dynamatic instead of the Elic?
Because of magnetization, right?
But of what? I guess
Omega Assembly cards.
Ziliax. But like,
Imagine if Ziliax came down. That would be game over on the spot.
I guess.
And I think it's, you know, the chances of him having bomb cards versus having magnetization cards, I would say FroStee is more likely to have bomb cards, but the downside of magnetizing a minion onto the Dynamatic is bigger than the downside of getting an extra bomb in your deck.
Only if it's exactly Ziliax, though, right? That was my thought.
Yes.
Because if Ziliax, I think if Ziliax comes down on its own, it's game over for che0nsu.
It's not game over because he has backstab, right? If it just gains 3 health, che0nsu can still very much go for the damage plan.
I guess.
But I fully see your point. It was a very close decision. However, this game is now getting much more interesting all over again because with FroStee low-key just slipping into the lead over the last couple turns, che0nsu now has the powerhouse that he's been saving up for, even delaying the Spirit of the Shark for a turn to go for a turn such as this.
So many options.
che0nsu would kill for a Vendetta right now.
Yes. Tough choice. He could go for the kind of quote-unquote high roll off of the evil Cable Rat by trying to get Kobold Goblin. Kobold Lackey, sorry.
Just going to take the
Goblin
Alex
Lackey.
off the board. Just doesn't want bombs to really snowball with and they would have as well. 2 Alex is like terrifying.
And this is scary for FroStee now because despite winning back board control over the last couple of turns, he's now in a position where it's not quite enough. His mechs don't have rush, so he's going to struggle to clear off enough every turn unless he goes very, very wide on the board.
He does have the Skater bot. So
That
he
helps.
can do
That
the Omega
helps.
Devastator turn if he really wants.
Like, I think he's definitely looking towards double 4 hero power this turn. Or would he ever go Beryllium Skaterbot hero power? That's not bad, actually, is it? Like, save the Omega Devastator for a huge Edwin, perhaps, on the following turn.
What if he went
Or is-
Beryllium on the 3/3,
And then
Skater bot on
Skaterbot
its
kill off
own
the
to kill the
1/1.
1/1? Because then, if you do draw Ziliax,
Yes,
You're
if
looking
you do draw
spicy,
Ziliax, then you
like-
just win.
and maybe FroStee needs to draw Ziliax. You know, maybe that's his attitude, right? Oh, he's not.
He's leaving himself
gonna
vulnerable
hold.
to Shadow Step here quite drastically. This was a tough turn, man.
It
This
was,
a
wow.
really tough turn.
che0nsu cannot hold all these bombs.
And there
It's
is
gonna be-
the Heist Baron himself. che0nsu can now go for making 2 Wondrous Wands on this turn, 2 Crowns on this turn.
1 million damage this time.
Oh my god. But at the same time, if che0nsu doesn't find healing, he could just die over the next couple of turns. There's so many bombs in the deck, and Wrench Caliber just pushes that yet further.
And there's a 7/8 you can't deal with.
Yes.
This is why I really like the Beryllium, because, like, what does he do?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I was wondering that it doesn't go wide enough, and therefore the board clear won't be available next turn. But with Devastator plus Skaterbot magnetized on next turn, it's pretty good. That's nuts as well.
But you can just Omega it.
Does he even pick the wand? Because if you go for wand, you're drawing further into your deck, which gets you closer to the bombs, which is like FroStee's out at this point.
Don't know. I actually just don't know anymore.
Oh,
Okay,
there's so much health on the board though. Dynamatic like can't even clear, right?
I think this gets very, very simple.
Do you just go face? Do
I
you just
think
go
so.
for the
You put
out?
him to 10. You put him to 5 even. You do 10, put him to 5.
Is there any way?
Draw a bomb.
Is there any way you can stay alive as well? If it fails, he
Yeah.
can, right? He can go Devastator on the.
Then Skaterbot.
Yes. Would Skaterbot be better or worse than Hero Power? Probably better because you can kill off the shark.
Do you? Yeah, probably.
Probably. With
If
with
you were-
two treasures in hand.
Yeah. If you equate the shark to deal more damage than a 2/2, then yes. Funnily enough,
can he clear?
che0nsu can backstab his 0/4.
Does he not even go for that plan? We could see Dynamatic on this turn. I haven't even considered if that would be a clear. It would. You'd have to sink the 7,
He has to trade into 0/4 now.
and the 2/2 is a mech as well, right?
Yep.
So in the end, he's come to the conclusion he's going for the out. The one bomb he needs. Oh!
Leroy.
That's Leroy. Is that
Wait,
just
it's
game?
lethal. It's lethal. He can backstab his 0/4.
Backstab his own marksman.
Yeah.
13 damage.
And draw 1,000
game.
cards too, but he doesn't need it. che0nsu's going to even this game up. Or even the series up, should I say. And there's 4 damage from nowhere. 6 from the Leroy.
What a game of Hearthstone that was.
That was just nuts.
That was
don't-
absolutely nuts. I thought FroStee was going to win that. I have to be honest. As it was approaching the end there, he was pulling ahead on board. And, you know, props to che0nsu, to be fair, because the key turn for him, I would argue, would be the turn where he held Spirit of the Shark. We were kind of freaking out when he drew that because we were like, oh, Evil Cable Ram. Maybe if he gets an Ethereal Lackey, then he can just get some all kinds of crazy value rolling. But by holding back on it for a turn, I'm not even certain that it was correct, but it paid out for him hugely in this game.
Yeah, and again, you see that although, yes, FroStee removed the mechs survived the brawl, which helped a lot for che0nsu. You can see the impact the mechs have, right? Because che0nsu pushed some insane damage. Because it's like an extra Van Cleef a lot of the time.
That
isn't
was
it?
like a big Van
and
Cleef,
it's like
yeah.
you push that much damage, which then puts the warrior on defensive. And we said at the start of this match, generally you don't want to play defensive as the warrior.
Yeah.
You want to play just as aggressive as the rogue, and then try and just edge ahead. Use your removal tools to gain tempo instead of trying to just defend. So very close game, very back and forth. I think, to be fair, both players got a good end of the stick at one point in the game. It was kind of nuts, but it does mean that FroStee has the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and either change his deck or keep hold of it. I think he'll keep hold of it, and I'm fairly sure che0nsu, unless he's going for weird mind games, will keep his tertiary deck. But it's not worth going for mind games if your opponent's never going to change anyway. Like, they're not going to change off it, so it would just be like, oh, I'm expecting a mech on 4 on 5, and I don't see it. Good.
What advantage does
Yeah,
that give?
fantastic. So yeah, I think we're going to see a rematch of game number 2, and hopefully just as nutty as well.
I hope so. It's kind of weird for me to reconcile the fact that the 14-14 Coppertail at the start was the same game as what we saw at the end there, because it felt like 2 completely different matchups. But it was only because of FroStee finding the Shield Slam that he was able to even get to that point where he had a chance.
It was crazy, and even after that, there were questions about if che0nsu hadn't drawn Leroy, would he have won-did? And if he won-did, he could have drawn
just
the
died.
bombs.
He could have healed for 2 by attacking first with the vicious Scrap Hound, which would have meant he would need 2 bombs in order to die, of which I believe there were still 2 bombs in the deck, so he could have just died on the spot. But man, it would have got very, very crazy very quickly.
Yeah, and both players just had confirmation that they are staying on the same deck. It's not too much of a surprise, but it's better to know 100% than guessing a little bit. So yeah, we're going to see the outcome of this series, and I believe, or at least FroStee told us, that he needs to win this match to stay in with a chance at top 3. So again, things might change. I've been told wrong things before, but as far as FroStee is concerned, and I believe out of all people, he's probably done the numbers, that he needs to win this match or he will not have a chance at top 3.
Yes, with the way it works, because there are currently 4 players at 6 wins before we start any matches this week. FroStee in tiebreaker 1, which is head-to-head, is even or weak against both of them. And in tiebreaker 2, FroStee, despite being in 3rd place at the moment, is facing 2 players this week at the bottom in che0nsu and Tom.
Yeah.
And therefore, FroStee's tiebreaker 2, which is strength of the opponents you've beaten in terms of their match wins, is very weak this week. So FroStee, basically, if he ends up at 7 wins, he cannot get through. He has to get to 8 wins in order to be able to take the victory.
Okay, well, let's take a look at this game already. Just having the Town Crier, fantastic. And then you just see how easily the hand comes together, right?
This is nuts.
The Militia Commander, the Goblin for next turn, or with Coin as an option, Coin 4-drop next turn, and having a choice between Militia and Wrench Caliber is always fantastic because they do some very different things. It's nice to have that flexibility because FroStee, for example, might be able to clear off a smaller minion with the weapon versus needing that big 5 damage output and saving that for a little bit later.
che0nsu here is very good at rolling the Goblin lackeys, which is generally in Rogue the one you don't want. I think I'd put that bottom of the barrel.
I think it's only ever good when you're behind, and you don't really want to be behind in games of Hearthstone, so...
I get, yeah. I mean, it's just basically the bigger minions you run on general, the better the card becomes. Rogue relies mostly on lots of small minions, tricksy little spells as well.
Goblin coming down, not too much of a surprise. It does already die to the board, which is a small consolation prize for che0nsu with that lackey.
I think I actually really like this play because of the fact that it's strong against Spirit of the Shark. By holding on to Coin Dynamatic, FroStee means that pretty much whatever comes down here, outside of Coppertail and Imposter, the strict anti-warrior tech, FroStee would have been able to kill it off.
This is one of those weird turns now, and this is the disruption I talked about, going into turns 4, 5, and potentially 6.
Yeah.
Like, these turns are the power turns that Warrior has access to. There is choices, though. FroStee could go with that Acolyte he's just drawn, or just equip Wrench Caliber and wait.
He needs to think about, can he answer a 9 health minion if War Gear comes down magnetized next turn? I believe he can't, because if he goes Wrench Caliber this turn, Militia Commander brings him up to 8 damage on the following turn. And it looks like because of that, he's going with the Acolyte of Pain in order to dig for more effective answers. And I think this is very reasonable, because in every universe where War Gear does not come down on this turn, I think FroStee is ahead. And so in the universes where it does come down on this turn, he has to find an answer.
Yep.
I wonder if I should stop saying in the universe, and after talking about Into the Spider-Verse together, I should say in this Hearthstone verse, he will...
Hearthverse.
Hearthverse.
I don't think Stoneverse has quite just different universes.
Yeah, this
stones.
one's made of stones. It's incredibly boring.
It's just pebbles everywhere. It's like being on a annoying beach, the ones that have rocks instead of sand.
I will not hear you badmouth Brighton like that.
Oh, is that one of those?
Yes.
I've not been to Brighton before.
Really? I didn't actually know.
It's too far away, isn't it?
Yeah, fair enough.
As I say, sitting in Taiwan.
Hey, if you don't want to visit, you just have to say, mate, all right? I can take it.
I mean, I will just say you've never invited me, so, you know, just throwing that one out there. But Darius, coming off the Evolve was fantastic,
Yeah,
and a really
that's the
good extra trade there for che0nsu. And now, this does mean FroStee does get a, what, 50-50 brawl?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
And even in the bad outcomes, I would say only Darius is truly disastrous. The Coppertail here, he's not sad to see it. Sorry, he is sad to see it. We can see, however, he shouldn't be that upset. He should be upset at what's about to happen, though.
Yeah.
It's not magnetization with mechs, but Lord Almighty, is it powerful.
The one thing is, his Dynamatic still gets to snipe it, probably.
Yeah.
In most Pebble verses, it gets to snipe it because it ignores the mech.
Yeah, I guess he probably upgrades the rat here. Honestly, I was looking at if he should upgrade the Spirit of the Shark on this turn.
Oh,
He's really good at getting those 4-1s. This one's even worse.
No,
it doesn't have Taunt.
He played around Spellbreaker. What a
I've silenced this already. Joke's on you.
idiot. And that is just
Oh my god.
twice in a row.
It's given him the perfect Dynamatic clear. Exactly 5 health twice in a row.
Oh, Hearthstone. You crazy little thing. To Doomsayer? No, okay.
Yeah.
It was only going to get worse, wasn't it? I felt like.
Into Duskball, another 4-1. Out of standard. che0nsu here, seemingly, wow, questioning if he should not take Wand. I have to be honest, I was expecting a Snap Wand. Does he ever take Goblet?
When too
Ever.
much synergy.
In any
I was
universe.
just about to say, I
In
want
any
him to
Hearthverse.
pick Goblet just because I kind of do.
Oh,
what is
he
going
picked
on?
the Goblet.
Do we have
You
psychic powers?
You never pick the Goblet. Never. And he's picked the Goblet. Do you reckon FroStee has a read that he didn't pick Wand? Because he hesitated, right? You know what you're going to get every time. It's the same 4 treasures.
The second you start thinking like that, though, I don't know. I feel like you go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone ever has the read that someone's picked Goblet, at least. That's what I will say.
All right. What is the best card that can come off of Goblet?
Hang on, how many hands? Sea Giant.
Shadow Step?
Oh, no, he's took the Sea Giant out.
It's got to be Shadow Step, right? Like, that's so absurd in terms of the damage that can be dealt.
Shadow Step.
Defend the gates.
I would guess so. I guess it would be Shadow Step. FroStee's going down to 16, which is relatively low.
It's a little scary. There's no Eviscerate that can come off the Goblet here. But as we said, just a Shadow Step with this Life Drink would just be lights out instantly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so exciting. I can't wait to see what's in the box.
I'm just upset if it doesn't get played. If it doesn't get played, I'm
If it doesn't get played, that will be
having
very
words with
sad.
che0nsu. Okay, slightly better evolve.
A little bit more.
It has
on
more
the
than
money.
1 health.
What a result.
Is FroStee just dead?
FroStee's in trouble, to say the least. Just Dr. Boom on its own this turn keeps him alive. I mean, he's alive on board, right, as it currently stands.
Yeah.
So he should be safe for the moment, but he needs to wonder, how much does he value getting the Dr. Boom down? Like, does he think he can win by just playing out the game as it currently exists with Dr. Boom? Or does he have to go for Shield Block to look for Warpath? I'm not even sure what he'd want.
I think he does have to go for shield.
Brawl?
block.
He has 2 copies in the deck. I don't think that's what he was looking for.
He could go for Militia Commander this turn, just to remove something and leave a minion on the board. He could kill off another
Yeah.
minion.
He can only kill off 3 attack maximum, though, so I wonder what he'll go for. Like, if he'll kill off the Carrion Drake or just take out 2 of the smaller minions. Probably 2 of the smaller minions. And he's got to be thinking as well, what could have possessed che0nsu to not play the Wondrous Wand
That is
last
very
turn?
true. It is very true.
Doesn't kill off the Miscreant here in order to tank 1 less damage, which seems pretty smart. He's afraid of damage at the moment.
Wand.
He can go Burglar, double... Oh, I guess he'd just play 1 Vendetta.
Right, just Vendettas is 1/1. Make more space for the wand.
Honestly,
Not the
something
wand,
to
the
consider.
goblet. Did I just keep saying wand then and not goblet?
I think he did.
Goblet.
Goblet, goblet, goblet.
I'm so used to just saying wand because it's just the one you always pick.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't
Oh.
mind.
All right, here we go.
Drink from the cup.
What?
Wait. No, it draws again, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's bomb! What?
There we go. che0nsu's like, I didn't know it worked like that.
That is a
Oh.
5-mana card that says deal 5 damage to yourself, draw a card. You never pick the Goblet. You never pick the Goblet.
che0nsu going for the Blessing of Wisdom to try and draw some actual cards.
So I guess technically now, che0nsu has 6 draw cards. So if he needs to go for the out of Leroy, he could just slam the bomb
That would
in
be the
order to
best
draw the
lethal
Leroy.
ever. It would
That
be the
would
best
be
lethal.
unbelievable.
And he could do it every single turn for, what, 4 turns?
I mean, before we even get to that, I think FroStee's just dead. Wait, how much damage is actually on the board? It's 11 on the board. Dr. Boom He's going for it before the hero power. He's alive even if he misses the blast shield.
Oh, this plays 2.
That's not bad. That does the same amount of healing. I mean,
So
hero power afterwards,
che0nsu needs to do 9.
4 out of 5 times, he gets the same or more health than hero power. So it was definitely better to hero power after.
Sorry, it needs to do 7, not 9. What am I talking about? Draw, draw, draw. Bomb, bomb.
Is Leroy lethal if he hits it off the bomb? It's
No,
not,
he's
right?
one
It's
off.
1 off, yeah.
So, probably Seam Dagger this turn, right? Because that's just 2 damage over 2 turns anyway.
I guess.
No, it's just not.
I'm kind
listening
of
to you,
losing
Oh,
a
never
grip.
mind. That's the better dagger.
Oh, yeah, so what? That's 4 damage that he can
That
push now
into
with SI. Yeah, yeah.
Another 2 next turn. I mean, that just looks good to me.
A Wrathy Weaponsmith. I remember I played this card in the first ever game of Hearthstone I played at my friend's house when
you
he had
win?
closed beta. We got a, what was it, a 9-runner arena, which was the max at the time. I was pretty happy.
You got a 9-run arena on your first ever go.
I mean, he was helping. He was a bit
Was he
better than I
good?
was. He was alright.
Only 9. No, not 12, was it?
It didn't exist at the time.
Oh, didn't it?
Yeah, it used to be 9, right?
I don't play arena, so.
But
For all
either
I
way,
know, it used to be 1 and everyone was great.
FroStee needs a miracle to survive, and his hand looks like it might just be able to provide it. The rush, and even the armor gain off of shield block here, might be enough to keep him alive.
Yeah.
Or just Snip Snap, right? The amount of removal that Snip Snap has here is insane.
But he'll want to armor up. Oh,
If
God,
he goes
it's
Omega
difficult.
Devastator, clears off the 5/5, or the 3/6 if he just wants the max health off board. And then he can go double Snip Snap as well.
Would it?
I think he can clear off all but 1 damage.
Does he end up doing more if he shield blocks?
Right,
and snip
yeah,
snaps?
finding a play that gets damage off the board is the first step. Finding a play that gets enough damage off the board, or the most amount of damage, is obviously the optimization step, which is not easy. And I think it's come to the same conclusion I have, just maximum removal at all costs here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I think it's all but the Miscreant comes up. Which is none too shabby. And it does mean, however...
Bomb into Leroy.
Oh, no, wait, is he alive at 1? Because
No,
the-
he's dead.
it overwrites the damage, right? The weapon, it's 5 damage as it currently stands.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because it overwrites the dagger. So che0nsu is 1 damage off of lethal.
I wonder. Yeah.
Overdraws a bomb coincidentally, which is pretty good for him. He's
Bomb
got
into
plenty enough of
Leroy,
those.
let's go. He doesn't need more bombs. He's Johnny Knows.
He could actually just play a bomb here to go for the lethal out. Oh, I mean, that could get Leroy as well.
I feel like he has to play the weaponsmith. Surely. The damage is so much. It's literally
Yeah,
double
yeah.
his dagger.
I mean, he can still fit the 7 mana of SI
Yeah.
weapon. FroStee, however, then is not out of the game. If he can hit Ziliax off of either the draw natural, the draw from shield block, or the hero power,
This guy's toast.
he's in this game. Oh. This series is unbelievable.
Well, he's got the block.
This is FroStee's tournament life on the line. If he loses this game, he is out of contention. If he goes shield block and hits Warpath, he's alive.
That sounds good to me.
He has to gain some kind of life, be it armor or lifesteal, on this turn. Oh! He hit the Warpath!
There's still the bomb into Leroy out, though.
It's exactly 5 damage needed. The dagger can obviously not be used with the weapon already in play.
Wait, I wonder how many minutes, because I think he can summon Leroy.
Boom Reaver can
Yeah.
summon Leroy.
Ooh. Oh, bomb into Cleave, the old combo. Get that 4/4 on the board. Here we go. Is Boom Reaver's best mate Leroy Jenkins? It is not, but it's still a good one, though.
It doesn't gain stealth, though,
No, but
because
it's
that's
just
a battle
it's just a
cry.
decent size, though, right?
Yeah, that's fine, but it can be removed, very importantly. No draw effects on this turn, however, so Ziliax is not possible. Shield Slam, Goblin, I don't think it's there.
These numbers don't add up very well, do they?
if he goes Hero Power, Shield Slam, Clockwork Goblin, rushes it all in, that's still not a full clear, even with anything else.
I mean, Shield Slam's just as good as Hero Power right now.
Yes.
And it doesn't do
Dynamatic
it.
is a 3/4 with Rush. It has no Battle Cry effect. Does he have a bomb out? As stupid as it seems at this point.
If this was
Double Elite Goblin.
any other regular rogue minion, FroStee would be okay.
Yes.
But che0nsu put the mechs in his deck, and they're paying off in spades right now. That's it.
It's not there. He throws it down.
FroStee's
FroStee
not going to make it.
is out of contention for playoffs. che0nsu was never even in with a chance at the start of it here, but he's still playing it to get that prize money that comes with every single win, and just to show he's a Hearthstone Grandmaster. He is the best of the best and deserves his spot here. What a series that was, though. FroStee was this close at all points.
It was nuts. I felt like every single game really could have gone either way. The game one was a little bit more one-sided just because of the draw, but still, like, those games were insane. And like the fact that che0nsu 1 picked Goblet, 2 played Goblet, 3 drew bombs from Goblet, and still won blows my mind, but did not blow up che0nsu's mind. So that is going to be match number 1 of the day. FroStee is not going to be rocking, but he still has one more match to play. Like you said, there's stuff to play for. There is money and just standings in general. So that's match number 1 done. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with match number 2.